The poster advertised a 1975 Stockholm Music Festival, headlined by a group called the Hairy Lobsters. The CCTV system was ancient. It took individual shots and recorded them to tape. It looked like I needed to enter a passcode to view the recording. I needed to find a 4-digit number. I didn't imagine Henri as a musician. A pair of evil eyes stared from a partially covered poster. It was a hookah pipe. Those things gave me a headache. Henri sure liked his clutter. In the trash can, I found a crumpled letter from Henri's credit card company demanding immediate payment. It listed extravagant purchases from a variety of ladies' fashion stores. The address indicated that Henri lived in the chic and expensive 16th arrondissement of Paris. I decided to put the letter back. Henri's financial problems weren't my business. But now I knew where he lived. It was the paper that Nico wrote for. Nico lived for the day her story would be on the front cover. I didn't like the idea of a pocket full of sharp pins. I didn't need a business card. The lighter was corroded and grimy. It'd probably never work again. I decided to leave it. I didn't feel the need to take Henri's eraser. Carrying an ink pot around inside my pocket would have been stupid. The ink would have stained my hands for days. I didn't want to carry the tape around. I had a feeling I wasn't going to need it. There was nothing else in the drawer. The folder looked interesting. This was very definitely tampering with evidence. It was a completion of work notice from a company called Vera Security. They weren't the guys we'd recommended. Henri had gone behind our backs to choose a different security outfit. I'd never heard of Vera Security, but there was an address and phone number on the form. The calendar looked like a child's school project. Henri had ringed 27th May and scrawled birthday. Poor guy hadn't quite made it to his big day. Henri's notice board was covered with all kinds of junk. The statue was jaunty. Up close and personal, I could see that the fig leaf was hinged. Thankfully, there was no one around to see me do this. Very interesting. It was a statue of Henri bearing almost everything. A strategically placed fig leaf protected his modesty. I wasn't going to open the safe without the key. I was fairly sure that even Henri wouldn't be silly enough to keep it hidden in the office. Now that was a safe. No way I'd be able to pick it. The sofa had clearly taken some punishment over the years. A naked lady stared at me seductively. Henri sure had his quirks. The poster advertised a 1975 Stockholm Music Festival.
Security?
George Stobart here, Paris Mutual.
Never heard of you.
Really? Well, I'm surprised. We're leaders in our field in commercial insurance, and our brand recognition is...
Do me a favor. Don't call back.
The lady hung up. I was going to have to visit in person. The telephone was an antique rotary model. The handset looked greasy. It was hard to tell if the lava lamp was retro or just plain old. The trinkets, the junk, the instruments. Henri was kind of a hippie at heart. And there I was, thinking that Henri might have set such an obvious code. No such luck. No. I needed to find a 4-digit number. The completion note from Vera's security. There was an address.
Hello, Vera Security?
It's George again, from Paris Mutual.
Didn't I tell you not to call back? Goodbye.
The frame containing pressed flowers. Henri may have been a hippie, but a hippie with plenty of disposable income. A pair of evil eyes stared from a partially covered poster. I had no reason to search the desk again. Henri had ringed 27th May and scrawled birthday. Bingo. I rewound the tape to before the robbery. This was the first interesting frame. It was Henri studying La Malédiction. He couldn't have had any idea what was about to happen. That was the earliest shot with anything interesting on it. Nico and I were taking a look at La Malédiction just before the robbery. Funny, the painting didn't strike me as remarkable at the time, just odd. A good view of La Malédiction. I could kind of see why Father Simeon thought it was evil. There was a certain presence about it. The killer caught in the act. There was nothing really distinctive about him. The moment it all went horribly wrong. The killer making his getaway. The painting was gone. There I was, taking a look at the alarm box. Hopefully I didn't look too suspicious. I hadn't thought about that when I was taking a look at the camera. That was the last shot. I realized I might have missed something from the earlier shots. That was the most recent image. Not my best angle. The alarm should have sounded when the killer took the painting, but it had been sabotaged. I wondered who could have done that. Maybe Lane, or even Henri himself. Or perhaps even Vera Security, who'd installed the system. That was me fiddling with the alarm. The alarm should have sounded when the killer took the painting. The alarm should have sounded. Whoever was wearing that helmet was going to pay for what he did. A logo on the front of his helmet read Waterloo Motors. That could be useful. The alarm should have sounded when the killer took the painting. Poor Henri. Why hadn't Henri backed down when the thief pulled the gun? If that was me, I'd have done whatever the guy wanted. The image was a little fuzzy, but in the center of the painting was what looked like a snake eating its own tail. I thought about what the priest said. There was definitely something unsettling about the picture. The alarm should have sounded when the killer took the painting. This frame caught the moment the killer took the painting. The most striking aspect of the painting was a snake eating its own tail. The most striking aspect. It seemed that whenever Nico stepped back into my life, so did trouble. There I was, looking at the exhibition. That shot must have been before anyone else arrived at the gallery. Was Henri studying that picture, or did he look worried? There was definitely more to this robbery than I first thought. The most striking aspect. Was Henri studying that picture, or did he look worried? Was Henri studying? That was the earliest shot with anything interesting on it. The CCTV had caught the killer in the act of lifting La Malediccio from the wall. He knew exactly which painting to take. He knew exactly which painting to take. The most striking aspect of the painting was a snake eating its own tail. Poor Henri. The alarm should have sounded when the killer took the painting. The most striking. The next shot had a better view of the writing on his helmet. The next shot had a better view of. Why hadn't Henri backed down when the thief pulled the gun? Whoever was wearing that helmet was going to pay for what he did. A logo on the front of his helmet read Waterloo Motors. I sure looked suspicious. I hope the police wouldn't see that. The alarm should have sounded. That was the last shot. I'd probably learned everything I could from the CCTV. That was the most.
Monsieur, sir, you have snuck in here, and now you are tampering with my evidence.
I wasn't tampering with anything. I was just looking for clues.
That is my job, Monsieur
Stobart. George Stobart. Paris Mutual. We insured the exhibition.
Oh, really? So, you have plenty to gain from the robbery.
Well, no. We have plenty to lose from the robbery.
Don't patronize me, monsieur. Only a fool wouldn't know how insurance works.
Yeah. No flies on you, Inspector.
Exactly. I have to get up very early in the morning, which means I can be sure to catch the worm.
So I see.
May I remind you, monsieur, that a serious crime has been committed. I am going to have to ask you to return to the gallery.
Of course. But I do need to ask you a few questions.
D'accord. But remember, anything you say can be used against you, Monsieur Stobart.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind. Do you know anything about a company called Vera Security?
No, I have never heard of them. Now, I must get on with my investigation.
Here, smell this.
If you think you can bribe me with expensive parfum de toilette, monsieur, you are mistaken.
Look at these nail clippers.
Perfect for disabling the alarm. You are sticking your American nose into my little French noose, Monsieur Stobart.
It's very likely that the security camera holds a clue to the killer's identity.
Monsieur, I am a professional, and you are an amateur. So, leave the investigating to me, hein, pal? Monsieur, you are American, no?
Yeah, California born and bred.
Of course. I think perhaps you are wanting to be like that Starsky and Butch, monsieur. No? Rolling around on top of fast cars with beautiful ladies, firing your gun.
Interesting idea, Inspector, but not really my style.
Indeed. Well, let me tell you something, monsieur. You are my prime suspect. You may go now, but I will need to speak with you again.
I had some valuable leads, but before following up on them, I had important business to attend to. Hey, Nico, you want to grab a quick cup of coffee?
Sure.
I am pleased to announce that I have finished my preliminary investigation. This is now an official crime scene, and you must all go. I shall be questioning all of you again in the coming days. Nobody is to leave the country, particularly you, Monsieur Stobart. Monsieur Lane will stay behind to help secure the premises. Mo?
Yes, Inspector.
Let them out.
Right away, sir.
Two coffees, please.
Nice work in there, Nico. Whatever you did, it worked.
I just made a tiny distraction, and Nave bought it.
I think Nave would buy anything if it had blood on it. You know, this whole setup, the theft, the murder, it just doesn't make sense.
What do you mean?
Well, the priest thinks La Malediccio is evil.
Charles, she's just crazy.
Yeah, you're probably right. But there's something strange going on. Do you want to borrow these clippers?
Word of advice, George. Never say that on a first date.
Smell this.
Oh, zut alors. I had an uncle who used to wear that. Maman told me to watch out for him.
Like I said, I think it was an inside job.
Go on.
Someone disabled the alarm, but on just one painting.
Let me guess. La Maledictio.
Exactly. And I aim to find out who did it. The security firm that Henri used was not the one I recommended.
Well, that's understandable. I've been to restaurants that you recommended.
I've got their address. Maybe they can tell me who could have had access to that alarm. The CCTV picked up an image of the thief. His helmet had the words Waterloo Motors written across it.
Interesting. I think I got a couple of good shots of him too, but I need to take a better look at them at home.
Great. Let me know what you find.
Good luck with your investigations. Well, I guess I should go. This story won't write itself. And Georges?
Yeah?
It's good to see you again.
Great to see you too, Nico. I watched her walk away. The sound of traffic, the sun shining, a crime to solve, and Nico back in my life. As I approached Henri's apartment, I started to doubt whether coming here so soon after his death was such a great idea. Tony's Brasserie. Looked expensive. Paris sure had a lot of similar-looking cafes. Parisian spring fashion. Reminds me why I love this city. I recognized the name Sasha from the charges listed in Henri's credit card letter. Unsurprisingly, the front door was locked.
Yes. Who is it?
Excuse me, madame. This is George Stobart. Could I talk to you?
Georges? What?
George Stobart, madame. I'm from the insurance company.
For God's sake, did they have all this? I don't want to buy insurance.
No, I'm not selling, madame. It's about the gallery theft.
Oh, I see. You people move fast, don't you? This isn't a good time. I am so distraught.
Madame, Right. Now that hadn't achieved much. Mr. Rickenbacker, I've got some new information. I found a piece of paper that shows Henri went against my recommendations for security.
And?
I guess I'm just wondering why.
Well, you're on the case, Stobart. Just find out where that painting's gone.
It would have been pointless to call Nico. I had nothing new to report. My phone had no service. I couldn't make calls. I decided not to call her again quite so soon. Paris sure had a lot of similar-looking cafes. At the end of the road, I could see the magnificent Bois de Boulogne. The address led me to a dead-end alley at the end of a deadbeat mall. No wonder I'd never heard of Vera's security. The aircon went nicely with the Art Deco detailing. The place looked like it had been out of business for a while. Vera's security. I was going to get some answers there. I hoped.
Please don't touch the sign. You'll just make it worse.
The stall was a myriad of retro kitsch. Bottle stoppers, keychains, musical cards. Hi, I wonder if you can help me. I'm looking for Vera's security.
Yes, of course. It's the shop behind you.
Thank you. The name's George, by the way.
Call me Bassam. And do please forgive me, but I'm in no mood to talk. I have a resounding headache.
Bassam had already told me where Vera's security was. Do you have any use for nail clippers?
No.
Smell this.
Whew. At least it's the real thing.
Bad migraine, eh?
The worst. The buzzing and flashing from the old sign is killing me. I thought the neon sign had potential until it broke.
Is it your sign?
No, the previous owners used to be a restaurant. But this is horrible. Adversely affecting my footfall and giving me a splitting headache.
You want me to try fixing that sign for you?
Do you know what you're doing?
I'm very good at fixing things.
Then please do. I'm no good at electricals. Marketing analysis and predicting trends is more my thing.
I took a good look at the sign. The wiring was exposed and the cover broken. No wonder it was flashing. I pulled the wire off. Well, that was one way to stop the letters flashing. Now only half the sign was illuminated. The stall was a myriad of retro kitsch. Bottle stoppers, keychains, musical cards. The buzzing and flashing has stopped.
And I am very grateful. But the sign still looks pretty terrible, doesn't it? When you're building a brand from the ground up, name is everything. I need a name that makes my customers long for adventure and treasures from faraway places.
Tell me about your business idea.
This stall is going to put me through college, while giving me field experience. But the nonsense sign is working against me. It should spell a name for my shop. I need something original, yet familiar, bright and in your face, yet subtle and symbolic.
I could take a look at your sign, come up with something.
You are like a genie from a magic lamp.
I decided to keep the wire. If Bassam knew how flimsy the sign was, he wouldn't be happy. Bassam had phone covers, cassettes, all sorts. Seemed the letters could be moved around. Shame it didn't have the right letters to spell Bassam. I'd have to think of something else. Nope, I needed to try something else. That was never going to work. Ah, Brett, the fragrance that dare not speak its name. Ah, Brett, the fragrance that dare not speak its name. At least the sign's not buzzing anymore.
I know, and I do appreciate it. But now it just spells nonsense. And as it says in all the books, branding is key. If only it spelled out a whole new world. That would send my business soaring.
Phone covers, cassettes, all sorts. Phone covers, cassettes. Seemed the letters could be moved around. Shame it didn't have the right letters to spell Bassam. I'd have to think of something else. That wouldn't work.
Help!
What's wrong?
There's a monster
What? Where?
on the floor. Get rid of it.
Oh, the cockroach.
Yes, the cockroach. Help!
The ashtray was full of cigarette butts. The filters were gold-colored, very exotic. Romanov's, a Russian brand cigarette. The pack was empty. A crumpled cigarette pack. As a child, I'd always been told not to play with matches, but I never could resist. The ashtray was full of cigarette butts. Romanov's. It was empty. Romanov's. It was empty. Come here, little fella. There were crumbs on the floor. No wonder the cockroach was sticking around. I was never going to catch it with my bare hands. I tipped out the matches. I couldn't catch it just by swiping at it. I'd need to entice it closer. There were crumbs on the floor. I set down my matchbox. Cockroaches like hiding in dark places. Not a bad idea when you think about it. Cockroach wasn't going for it. I needed some bait. I refused to torture the little fella. Even cockroaches have rights. The box needed some bait. Even the plant looked depressed. The place looked very much like temporary accommodation.
Leave that radio alone and sort this damn cockroach.
I didn't want to step on the cockroach. The Vera phone. All expenses had been spared. Matches always came in handy. I wasn't going to talk. The ashtray was full of cigarette Romanovs. It was empty. Phone covers, cassettes, all sorts. Could you help me with a vermin problem, please?
I'm sorry. Until I kickstart this business, I don't really have time for ancillary projects. I need a brand. A clear message that grabs my key demographic by the lapels and hurls them into my economic bailiwick.
Excuse me?
You know, a name that sounds magical and exotic, that appeals to a yearning they only feel subconsciously.
Do you know anything about Vera's security over there?
Not really. I haven't been here long, but neither have they by the looks of it.
Why do you say that?
Rush setup, new sign, low investment, and no customers except for you.
I've got some matches.
Always good to have.
I decided to keep... If Bassam knew how flimsy the sign was, he wouldn't be happy. I didn't think... Do you have any use for nail clippers?
No.
He struck me as... At least the sign's not buzzing anymore.
As I said, I know and I do appreciate it, but now it just spells nonsense. And as it says in all the books, branding is key. If only it spelled out a whole new world. That would send my business soaring.
Hello, I'm...
Cockroach! I see the little beggar.
There was a huge cockroach in the way. There was a huge cockroach in the way. That was almost a great idea. Almost. That wouldn't work. Nope, I needed... The box needed some bait. The box needed some bait. I was never going to catch it with my bare hands. They didn't go together. That wasn't quite right. I didn't want to leave that there. I didn't want to leave. I considered firing off a quick squirt, but decided the stale smoke would smell nicer. I didn't want to leave that. That wasn't worth. That was never. I needed a better idea. Seemed the letters could be moved around. Shame it didn't have the right letters to spell Bassam. I'd have to think of something else. The place looked like it had been out of business for a while. The aircon went nicely with the Art Deco detailing. The aircon went nicely with the Art Deco detailing. Could you help me with a vermin problem, please?
As I said, I'm sorry, until I kickstart this business, I don't really have time for ancillary projects. I need a brand. A clear message that grabs my key demographic by the lapels and hurls them into my economic bailiwick.
Excuse me?
You know, a name that sounds magical and exotic, that appeals to a yearning they only feel subconsciously.
Mr. Rickenbacker, I've got some new information. I decided to pay a visit to Vera Security, the company that Henri used.
Great. Get digging and find out what you can.
Hey, Nico. I've arrived at Vera Security. It's a pretty seedy outfit.
Great. Anything else?
Not right now.
Well, call back if you find anything.
Hello, Vera empty?
It's George again, from Paris Mutual?
Didn't I tell you not to call back? Goodbye.
The poor lady wouldn't have been able to cope with a call.
Leave that radio alone and soak this damn cockroach.
The Vera phone. All expenses had been spared. The place looked very much like temporary accommodation.